Bang went the knife that ended his life. Ormondagondastoneson son, killed in his study, perhaps by a buddy. Ormondagondastoneson son. He looked like Beau Bridges, his business was fridges. Ormondagondastoneson son. He loved women and wine at the odd 69. Ormondagondastoneson son. The night that he died, it sure pissed down outside. Ormondagondastoneson son. Was it a robber or some other knobber? Ormondagondastoneson son. Police sure were baffled. Some builders used scaffold. Ormondagondastoneson son. To crack this some digger, they called on old Ringer.
Yes, what with the yank now?
Evening.
Really, where did you buy those breasts?
Oh, come on, that's what
I didn't do that. I think so. Not bad. No, that's actually an
pushing it here.
Daddy, do you really think so? I don't think so. Why don't you just shut up?
Why should I be the one who always thinks? Why did you mind your own business?
Ah, Inspector Mott. Perhaps you would be so kind as to tell us why we've all been called to the smallest room in the house in the middle of the night.
Some of us do have social lives, Inspector.
Word.
My apologies to all. Mrs. Ormondagondastoneson, Mr. Taylor. Mrs. Ormondagondastoneson. Ah, Father Handcream. Mrs. Ormondagondastoneson. Mr. Hussein. May I introduce Detective Lawrence Ringer of the NYP...
Dave! And yes, you may. Trouble is, I got a plane to catch. And my vacation's been cut short, so let's keep this sweet. 3 weeks ago today, refrigerator magnate Howard Louis Ormondagondastoneson was murdered in this very room. And in this very room today is his killer.
Sweet Jesus!
Let's not go pointing any fingers just yet, Pastor.
I was told my husband, interrupted.
Interrupted what?
A burglary.
With all due respect, Mrs. Omandagondaston, I've seen more phony burglaries in my time than John Elk.
John who?
Elk! John Elk. Buddy of mine. He works burglary. His wife, Sharon. She makes bun cake. No, this was no burglary. This was cold-blooded murder.
Officer, really that easy?
Please, ladies and gentlemen, the detective would just like to ask a few questions.
This is so not on. We've been to this 1,000 times already.
You won't mind rounding that up to 1,001, Mrs. O. Inspector.
I totally went to bed early that evening. Telly was so not happening. And anyway, I don't know, I guess I felt a bit tired. Not tired, but I don't know, I was getting my period.
Stick a cork in that, Mott. Mrs. O, are you telling me you never set foot inside the study that night? Not even to, I don't know, turn out a light? Close a window? Chase the dragon?
Totally.
Then perhaps you'd like to explain why traces of your nail polish were found on the files of your dead husband's desk.
Well, it's a popular brand. Lots of women wear it.
Lots of people wear green, Mrs. O. Doesn't make them trees. Now, I pulled the phone records for the place you got here, seen someone squawk for 16 minutes and 42 seconds. But I suppose a clean-living country gal like you wouldn't know anything about that either.
I took. How did you know I was raised in the country?
You sat like your legs have had a falling out. which means either you've ridden a few horses in your time, or you're a slut. Makeup so thick it's hard to tell where science begins and you end. Your bra, nothing but a pencil mustache on a fat head. But the trained eye can see you're just showing off the results of high-priced surgery. Sure, there's no proof that you're putting out, just that you used to be flat-chested and ugly.
I beg your pardon!
Then there's your dead husband's liking for an easy lay. 2 T's taken from the stiff's wardrobe. I heart sluts, and sluts rule. Now again, such circumstantial, I'd have you booked for hooking if it wasn't for one small detail. Your jaw. The right side is slightly more developed than the left, suggesting that you, like many of the best lays mutt here has ever known, grew up chewing straw.
And like totally rude. You so don't even know me anyway. And I didn't go into the study.
Sure you didn't, little lips. The lipstick on the mouthpiece, the polish on the files. What are you saying, the files and the mouthpiece were planning on hitting a few bars?
Oh, really, detective?
No, not really. It's far more likely that Sophie the trophy here was in that study.
What are you insinuating? That I was some kind of trophy wife?
Honey, I'm just surprised he didn't have you stuffed and mounted.
Oh, please!
Sit down, Mr. Taylor. I was just coming to you. Alan Taylor, born Alan Taylor. Stop me if I'm way off the mark.
Oh, it would be my delight.
You met Mr. Ormondagondastoneson around 9 weeks ago. You were introduced by a mutual friend, the homosexual Captain Jeff Danvers, who claimed you'd made a killing for an investment. You struck up a conversation with the stiff and found out you had a few things in common. Golf, racquetball, driving in cars with his nephew.
Oh, I must object.
6 martinis and a Turkish can opener later, and you're whispering sweet nothings into his ear, and he's giggling like he's your sister. You tell him you've got this great overseas investment opportunity with his name on it. He asks you what it is. You tell him it's the great Ormondagondastoneson investment opportunity. Low risk, high return. You claim to have an insider who's looking for a discreet private investor. He throws you a proof of funds, an NCND, 1.2 mil, and you get your insider to start shaking.
What's an NCND?
It's an abbreviation. 2 weeks later, Mr. O gets a check for $190K. The first installment of his slice of the pie. A pie stuffed full of money, lies, meat, few berries.
Oh, this is absurd.
Poppy crap.
Cock?
Grow up, hand cream. Mr. O was your mark from the start. The only dough Danvers saw back was his own. There is no inside man.
What is it you're trying to say?
You insinuated that this investment wasn't legit, so he didn't get his advisors involved. Then you started getting greedy. Started pushing for a further mill. Mr. O starts asking questions that you can't answer. And like a Boston-ass derby, cracks started to show.
Oh, this is rubbish.
Sit down, Mr. Taylor, I'm not finished. You knew he suspected you of conning him.
No.
You knew he was having you investigated.
No, that is a lie.
You knew because the only insider you have is in this house.
No!
You touch dead people.
No.
You French kiss animals.
No!
And the best sex you've ever had is with a relative.
No! No! No!
Down, Mr. Taylor.
Leave him alone!
The insider has spoken.
These are lies. All lies. And you don't have a shred of proof.
I don't need proof, damn it. I'm an American.
No, really, Detective, you do need some sort of...
That paint on your nails, Mr. Taylor. That blister on your left thumb, you know, the one with the splinter in it? What is that, from an easel?
I have hobbies. Since when is it a crime to have hobbies?
Forgery's been a crime ever since men have drawn apples and tits. You've been stealing from Mr. O's art collection and replacing them with knockoffs that you yourself painted. And you couldn't have done it without the help of Mrs. O here, who you're also knocking off.
I knew it.
You gave the paintings to Taylor and replaced them with phonies. And, as an exceptional an artist as you are, next time you try forging a Van Gogh, try not to sign it Alan. Manipulating a broad like that, you must have had her screaming in the sack like a slapped ape.
I never made her do anything she didn't want to do.
It's true, he never made me do anything I didn't want to do.
Listen to her. She's like a puppet to you. A puppet with 2 big dirty pillows.
Really, Detective?
Yes, really. Mr. Taylor here's been playing Mrs. O like a $5 flute with a brush taped to the end of it. Working her with his fingers and his mouth until she starts singing his tune whilst using her to get close to the paintings. That's how he knew Mr. O was going to be out of town that night, and it was his number that she called from the study. You see, they were looking for a report that had been delivered that morning. A report commissioned by your husband that proved that your lover was a fraud.
I've had enough of this. I'm going to call my solicitor right now.
Call him what you like. You two are doing it, and I've got all the proof I need on my computer, squeezed into a little file I like to call porno.
You filmed yourself.
How did you...
I'm lonely.
This is ridiculous.
6 gigabytes is not ridiculous. It's unhealthy, maybe possibly damaging to one's eyesight, but it's not ridiculous.
Okay, it's true.
You could burn that on the discus machine.
It's all true. We're livers. And yeah, we were totally stealing from my husband. But we didn't kill him. How he was abusive. Disgusting. He had his fun and was going to divorce me. The prenup gave me nothing.
You trash!
She killed him.
What?
Me and Alan, we were in the study. We heard footsteps. We turned off the lights.
And as we were leaving, we saw Crystal Ormondagondastoneson enter.
Liars!
You can't seriously believe them, Detective. Every word that's come out of their mouths has been a lie.
Right, because you were where on the night of the murder? Mott.
I was walking Lord Rochford. That's my dog. Would you like me to spell that for you? D-O-G. Now, if you don't mind, I'm expecting Chief Superintendent James and his wife for dinner. You do know the Chief Superintendent, don't you, Inspector? He's the gentleman who ensures that you have...
Stop right there, Mott, before you strike oil.
Before I strike...
You're boring! Now, Mrs. Ormondagondastoneson, you always walk your dog that late?
My dear man, have you met Lord Rochford? He's practically a bear.
I bet he's expensive to keep.
I don't have to worry about such concerns.
Oh, so that wasn't your jewellery that was being auctioned off at Sotheby's 9 weeks ago?
Jewellery is like shoes. It should never be worn more than once.
The only thing jewellery and shoes got in common is they should never be worn internally.
I assume this has a point, Detective.
For once, Mrs. O, you're right on the money. You see, your divorce was like shower time in Sing Sing. It was very public, very messy, very hard to walk away from. You accused your ex-husband of not declaring his assets. Now, if you could prove he was holding back on you by, I don't know, sneaking into his study to fetch the papers of ownership, I'm sure...
Spare me the routine, Detective. I was there. That bastard lied through his teeth, and I was left with a tenth of my dues and crippling legal costs. His army of solicitors tied my case up in knots, dragging it out for his own amusement. He wanted me to pay. Pay for not worshipping him. The money didn't matter to him. It was the fact that it mattered to me. But I didn't kill him. And I wasn't the last person in that room. You see, as I was leaving, I saw...
For the hand cream!